Welcome back, everyone, for another segment of Proto Pro. I have FBI here with me today.
What?
Congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
So I have a couple clips here. Before I play this one, I have a question first. What are your expectations for this lane? Do you think it's like a win if you get a kill, or is it kind of just looking to trade farm?
Yeah, I think this lane, we're playing Zeri Renata, so obviously we're going to outscale the Cassiopeia Nautilus. Ideally, we just get past the laning phase even, but in the lane, we actually get early prior, and it's actually... didn't really understand the Cassiopeia Nautilus too much from them, but I guess they had something planned with it. I'm not sure.
Right. So for this clip, you guys do an early push and you take an early recall. While you're doing that, Hui's going for a roam mid. So my question is, one, do you like this early recall because you're going to be down an item on them, and who calls for it?
Yeah, I don't really mind this early recall because I get to buy my coal and kind of boost my economy, and at the same time we kind of get pressure on their mid laner because we get a free support roam. The only thing we have to be worried about is obviously they're going to get a timer as well, and they're going to have a stacking wave onto us, but I think we played around it pretty well.
Gotcha, cool. And then I'll continue forward. I have a next clip here. It'll be the Rift Herald fight. So my first question is this a fight that you guys are confident taking coming into it? Because you have 3 scaling champions, Gangplank, Azir, Zeri. Do you want this fight? And if so, are you feeling good about the fight as it's progressing?
I think the fight started pretty well for us. Actually, it looks to be starting pretty badly for us. But we're honestly always pretty down to fight, and I think got some tempo in the AD, so we decided to fight it, and luckily Abadage smurfed his fight pretty hard.
Gotcha. So let me rewind a bit. I'm curious to know more about the comms during the fight itself. So on your team, when you guys are taking these team fights, who's making the priority calls? Like, are you the one yelling at a certain champion, or it kind of just depends?
It kind of depends on how much energy, I guess, each player has, because we all kind of talk a lot in the game, especially on stage. And then there are times where someone's yelling really, really loud and pretty hard to focus. But yeah, I think everyone just talks a lot in the team fights. Gotcha,
gotcha. Okay, cool. And then I have one final clip here. Oh, we'll get to see him win this fight, actually. This was pretty cool.
Yeah, he smurfed pretty hard.
Yeah, I was actually surprised he lived there. That must have been like a very short timing on that W. But okay, so then the next clip is coming up here. And while it runs, can you tell me a bit about the comms that are happening through this point in the game? And also, do you feel like you have already won the game, or is it something that happened, you feel that way after Baron?
I think the game is pretty won here, barring any mega ints, and the comms are pretty hectic here. I think some of us were calling for Baron, others were calling just effing kill them, and then it turned into whatever this was. I kind of entered here, but it worked out, I guess, so.
Gotcha, gotcha. So you guys felt like you won the game already because you guys were so ahead and you had a scaling champions?
Yeah, pretty much, I would say so.
Cool. So that's basically all I had for this today. Thank you for taking time here. Thank you. Also, congratulations on the win. Well played, by the way. That's it for us. We're going to send you all over to the analyst desk.
Thank you so much, Hi. Thank you so much, FBI. FBI closer, the whole squad lived up to their promise they made to me yesterday in taking down evil geniuses. I'll get a much-deserved ice bath next week.
Yes, you will.
I love that form of shot calling, though, effing kill them. And you got to imagine that's what the shot call was in that Abadaga quadra kill around the Rift Herald, which really turned the game on its head.
Yeah, it was really cool to see JoJo kind of hyping Abe up to us, being like, he does so much for his team, and then he just absolutely comes out with a phenomenal Azir game.
It was good the whole game, I think, is the call-out, too, because he was winning the lane phase, he was controlling JoJo's Ahri the entire time, almost getting solo kills multiple times. And then in this team fight, it was pretty scrappy and a pretty critical part of the game, because if EG were going to win, they were going to need to win skirmishes in the early game like this. And Danny going flying in, they're trying to finish off FBI, and the combination with the attack speed that the Azir can make use of from the Renata, combined with getting brought back up to get the last 2 kills, was pretty huge.
And that was just a pretty critical mistake there from Impact to come in there without the follow-up of like Nautilus, who's taking the long route. But in the end of the day, like, humongous play, quadra kill there for Abadaga. And it was just really great to see, because you're right, like, multiple times almost got solo kills, finally ended up getting a solo kill later on in that lane, and then having that team fight. Abadaga has just been on a tear.
Yeah, I mean, that fight went from looking like they could be the ones getting aced into an ace the other way.
Appreciate the bailout there, Hui.
Hell yes, hell yes. From here, though, we're going to turn our attention to the next game of the day, which sports in Immortals, who obviously still hungry for wins, given that their position at the bottom of the table, but a team that I'm actually very excited to talk about, given how much has changed since that break week that we had, Mark.
It was a situation where they were getting nearly perfect game over the course of the split multiple times. Happened once against Team Liquid, but then they were able to bounce back during that break week, it felt like. And even though they're only 1-2, they're clearly a different team playing so much more proactively. Even in that loss versus Team Liquid, it is night and day if you look at how they lost in week 1 versus just yesterday.
Yeah, and I would say this game, the game that we're seeing in front of us, the one that was versus CLG, was really impressive because they were actually significantly far behind in the early laning phase and then crawled back into the lead simply because of their proactivity through mid, their jungle, their support. Like, they're a team that feels a lot more locked in, and that was a huge plus. Of course, the win that they had over Cloud9, PowerOfEvil just had a monstrous Corki's performance.
Now, of course, looking better is great, right? It's good to see them making some improvement, but they still have a long way to go. Likewise, their opponents today are in very much the same position. Granted, they got there in a slightly different way, right? For TSM, it has continued to be the story of roster shuffling. And so while they as well are near the bottom of the table in the standings, a lot of questions around, you know, what this roster will look like with another week and yet another week and another week of practice under their belts.
And something they won't say is that there is a change in expectation. Like, a lot of people expected this team to be a top 5 team, like, prior to the changes. Some that they have no control over, which is Huni's wrist issues. And the other that is like a issue that we kind of have to constantly monitor, which is the bot lane. Knowing that Tactical right now and Mia are in Academy. And these guys are performing really well. So right now, if Instinct and Chime continue to play how they have been, I expect them to be the players that stay.
Another thing I want to see from TSM specifically that I think will help them out, that at the very beginning of this split with that other roster, when we were talking about like, oh, okay, they're really focusing on having pushing lanes for Spica, right?
Yeah.
And giving him space. And I also think that is a very good strategy to have when you are still trying to integrate a lot of these new players on the roster. Give them winning lanes. It gives Spica more room to do a lot more, you know, put Maple on something he's super comfortable on so he can control the mid. And that'll help them out a lot in the early game.
And I think drafting is still something a lot of teams are struggling with. I don't know if even struggling is the right word, but it's a meta where you can actually hard lose in draft. You kind of just saw it even in the game that just happened where range advantages can be a big problem. Teams that go in, but then they're going into like Seraphine, Swain. We saw like you can win drafts pretty hard right now if you're not careful with counterpicks coming out. And I think that was a situation in the previous game where they had a pretty short range comp that was going to have a really hard time in that game, and that's something that TSM needs to improve on.
Exactly, because there's also the added level of you can create a lot more creative drafts. We're seeing that. We talk a lot about Golden Guardians, but also TSM was the team that, like, we knew coming into this that Sol, he's been kind of heralded as like a great carry top laner, specifically on picks like Yone, so he brought it out, but it made the composition so much harder to execute. So I think they'll wind it back. The 2 players that I will really hone in on is Spica and Maple. We say this a lot. This is how they get their early game leads. This is how they usually, if they win games, will keep those leads. So I expect those players to be the ones that will be the deciders.
I love that you bring it back to them, right? Because for all the talk of the moving pieces around them, those are the 2 central figures, right, on this TSM roster. So both teams super hungry for wins here, looking to make moves in the standings as we've crested that halfway point of the regular season, and it's time to really get those wins on the board. Now, as our teams are ready up, Spica gives us his perspective on Kenvi's LCS performance so far and what it takes to be a pro jungler. Take a look.
Kenvi, I think he's a new jungler. I think, I kind of feel bad for him. He's definitely in a difficult position. As a rookie jungler, I know there's a lot of things you have to think about. I've been there just adjusting to how your teammates play because solo queue is very, very different from pro play, right? You're not going to get free kills. You got to play around your team, around your timers. And I think he could definitely play better, but he's definitely been put in a difficult situation. So hopefully, he could push through it and then just see what works for him and the team.
Welcome back, everybody. The camera shot finds itself a little more narrow now. Whippo was with us for the last game, but
I miss
now
him already.
Isaac and I have lost our better third for the rest
and we didn't
of the
even
game
get to say goodbye to him on broadcast, so thank you, Whippo. You killed it.
Whippo, you're a badass, dude, now and forever. Hell yeah. If you ever get tired of playing, you've always got a home here with us. I can't actually back that up because that's not my call to make, but you know what? I'm going to utilize social pressure to get it done anyway.
Exactly.
Now,
ask for forgiveness, not permission, as we always say.
Exactly. Now let's see what we've got brewing in game number 4. Our second to last game of the weekend, Immortals going up against TSM. Both of these teams hungry hungry for win.
Absolutely. Look at all these mid lane bans as well. I mean, Tulia is a flex, but basically 4 mid lane bans already through the 4 first bans coming out. Maple has been really, really good in Champions Queue. He's been really doing well, I think impressing a lot of people, so he is kind of looked at it as potentially a very big threat here. Soul played the Yone yesterday, so we know that that is both a Maple pick. He's been playing that in Champions Queue, but also a flex towards top, so pretty much all focus on the soul lanes here. It's a very atypical draft. Only
and then
one.
Kalista.
Yeah, only Kalista is not potentially a mid lane ban, and it is an immediate Seraphine, so we are expecting it to be a farming Seraphine for a loss. Of course, it can always be flexed around. It was supposed to be a support, but no one plays a support. It's actually more likely to be mid lane or played bot. So gonna be interesting to see where it is actually moved to.
Chugga, 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 chugga. You hear that, Isaac? That's the sound of the death ball train ready to leave the station. Anytime I see Seraphine, I expect them to pick 4 other champions that want to group up in a ball and walk around together.
And it's really interesting because then there's different options, right? Do you actually try to draft your own death ball and just like meet up and scrap it out?
Battle.
Or do you try to go full on split push and wave clear, right? Because that's actually the answer that I like against these multi-enchanter comps when I'm playing in solo queue and I see like Seraphine, Sona bot lane or whatever, I'm like, well, I'm playing Fiora and I'm never grouping the whole game, right?
Mute my team.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
I'm not fighting that. So,
See him side lane.
So it's one of those things that can be a tough choice. Trundle, really good answer here into the Poppy. I love that for Kenvi. We saw that got banned out by EG in the second round when they picked Poppy, so that is one of the dangers of actually blinding the Poppy jungle, is that Trundle is incredibly strong as an answer.
And they also picked the Swain early for TSM. They want to deny that Swain away from a Seraphine Deathball comp, but Swain has some situations that he's much, much better in than others, generally very good against dive, but it doesn't look like Immortals are really drafting a bunch of things diving in together. Cassiopeia, one of those mid-lane mages that can traditionally just out-DPS similar ranged counterparts, very effective.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to actually see this getting picked up here. Cassio, not a super popular pick these days in pro at all. This is not a matchup that there's a lot of data on, but you know, Cassio is of course incredibly high DPS, does shut down a lot of these champions that do have dashes, which are very popular. Zeri coming in here, champions like Zeri can be very difficult to actually play into, so it's going to be interesting. It's also potentially flexed towards top, you know, if there is an easy matchup. Cassio top into some of the like kind of binary melee champions that are picked top lane from time to time is really, really tough to deal with. So like if you're playing against like Sejuani or something, there's absolutely no chance that Sejuani can do anything to you kind of in that 1v1. So would be interesting to see if there's any potential of a flex. Mostly Revenge, I feel like, plays more the kind of like AD champions though than AD.
Right, the typical fighter type of champion, right? But the other thing that I'm also thinking about, because it's Immortals, because it's Power of Evil, I think a lot of people who remember the games from spring are going to remember that tragic loss they had with Power of Evil on the Cassiopeia, with the Gargoyle Stone Plate build that you sometimes see in high elo that really just lets her never die. But then the comms fell apart.
And
he was split pushing top.
That was weird.
To me, that was the game that defined Immortals' communication problems in spring. So now we're getting to see Power of Evil back on a Cassiopeia. I want to see those problems fixed.
Absolutely. I mean, that was a sad game. He got, I want to say, like 3K up within like 8 minutes into the game. Like, it was ridiculous. He was like a full item ahead when people aren't even supposed to have an item yet. and that game didn't go well for them. So yeah, I mean, I think Immortals over the last 3 games has looked significantly better. Even though they've only won one of those 3, they've been much more competitive. They've been much more cohesive. So I agree. We want to see those improvements continue to show themselves. Clearly, a lot of focus towards Revenge in the second round of the bans here on the TSM side. Banning out some of these side lane AD champions. They are very AP heavy. If you're going to have Seraphine as your farming bot, you have Trundle as your jungle and Cassio, like you need heavy physical damage from your top laner, right? And so they're focusing on those. You could go like Aatrox or Jace or something along those lines. I think that does kind of fit the bill here. But it can be difficult to play that out, you know, into some of this. Like when you're looking over at Poppy and Swain and Zeri, can the Aatrox actually get in on those carries and actually deal with them? That will be a big question. Enchanters were obviously banned out here. The pairings with the Zeri is the concern for Immortals. So banning out Yuumi, banning out Lulu. We're gonna have to find, is it just gonna be a standard engage support? Feels like that's what they kind of want, because yeah, I think Alistar makes some sense. You know, Nautilus, those types of things as well can also fit, because TSM has no hard engage, right? They have a lot of follow-up, but no hard engage. Amumu is also specifically really considered a great answer into Zeri because of the passive on the E, I believe it is, that actually is just flat damage reduction that works on each individual instance of the bullets that Zeri is shooting out.
Right.
So you take like way less damage from Zeri than you normally would, because if you're taking off like a flat 10 damage from a 500 damage thing, that's very little.
That's 490.
But
That's still a lot of damage.
Exactly, but if Zeri's shooting out like 8 bullets and each of them are doing like 40 or whatever, well, you're cutting down the damage by like 25%, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thought process there in this Amumu into Zeri pick. And it is going to be really interesting to see how this actually works out. I am assuming that IgNar's just playing like full standard support and that he's not like a farming Amumu or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, we've got some pretty scary teamfight options here
Very
on both
weird
sides.
comps.
Like, it's a little bit wild. Like, TSM going for the very early Poppy and very early Swain without seeing anything other than a Seraphine kind of made this draft turn into counterpunches to counterpunches.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we're seeing a lot of interesting stuff coming out from Immortals as well as their answers, right? Amumu as the answer into Zeri has been seen some, but it is a typical Seraphine farming bot, Cassio mid. So some of the less popular champions here are making their appearances, but I do like the draft here overall. We'll see if they're going to be able to actually pull it off, if they're going to be able to be successful. There is a lot of protection, a lot of enabling tools here, it feels like, for the Cassio. You have the Pillar, you have the Seraphine ult, AoE ult that can actually combo with the Amumu ult, like a lot of ways to actually pillar someone in and then set up for this big combo, the CC combo that the bot lane from Immortals have. Because if you can lock someone down for the Cassio, she puts out like near unparalleled DPS, right?
Yeah.
Like, you are going to be able to kill it if you can free fire, and there's a lot of tools on the Immortals side to try to buy that space. But TSM also have their playmaking and their answers, right? Counter engage from Spica, knock away the Cassio in one of these fights. You know, Chime can headbutt them away, keep that distance, and Maple is going to be really successful if everyone is kind of stacked up and piling in that Swain.
And as we're sort of waiting for everything to start in this game, I want to go back to what we heard from PowerOfEvil, I think it was yesterday, in one of our clips where we heard him talking about, well, in almost every matchup, Immortals is going to be considered the underdogs. Like, that's pretty much the way it is. But in this one, I think this might be the exception, because people's faith in both of these teams is very low right now. They've both made good changes recently. TSM with the actual roster changes, but then Immortals getting better at the comms. So I'm looking to see whose changes reign supreme here.
This is cute. They actually got Revenge to roam down and got XP off that. So they gave double Soul Laner XP off that ward. So PowerOfEvil got it and Revenge got it. So they both should actually get level 2 one wave earlier, one minion earlier.
Right.
Off of one full wave, as you're saying.
Yeah, that's the important part, the difference between 6 versus 7, right? Because 7 requires the second wave to be there, so can definitely change the lane state. We'll see if it ends up being impactful or not, but
it can be against Cassio. I mean, you got to pay respect to Cassio. At level 2, if Cassio dumps her mana bar into you, you can just die, right? But I always feel like when you're playing against Cassio, especially in the early phase, you're playing more against her mana bar than her health bar. That is really kind of the limiting factor because she can do so much DPS, and that's why you start out, you know, with these tier starts. It's double tier start here for Immortals, so I think they're pretty happy to just kind of chill. But it looks like it's potentially a level 2 gank here early on. Is Kenvi actually coming down? I think they're going to go for it.
What is it? The best gank path is the ones your opponents can't expect. Instinct! A little more damage will do it, and it's first blood to Immortals.
I love it, man. You know, Santorin gave that interview that I think is just resonates so much with me. It's talking about efficiency, and people have gotten so much into this kind of school of thought of maximize efficiency at all times, kill your camps as fast as you possibly can. Well, this is not efficient at all as far as that goes, but getting first blood early on, it's just red straight down to bottom, and Lost started E here, so they clearly were going for this game plan, or you would just start Q. They wait, they get the Q stun there, the pillar comes through, the E stun to follow it up, because if you're slowed, you get rooted. If you're rooted, you get stunned by the Seraphine, so it's kind of amped up by these additional things that are landing there, and they're able to get first blood on the Trundle. Of course, Spica is going to be head in experience, and the question is, can he really get any sort of an advantage from that? Because if not, very clearly, Immortals are going to be way up on gold, and Instinct is going to be put pretty heavily down. And Instinct is the main source of damage on the TSM comp. Like, sure, Swain does damage, but Swain is not super high DPS, right? Swain is more just kind of this tanky, immovable object that creates space for your
massive
team.
zone control.
Yeah.
But hey, and I also love the fact that Kenvi is willing to do this on a champion like Trundle, because I want to go back to sort of the point that Whippo made in the previous game, talking about these junglers that can function on a non-existent economy. Trundle's pillar is always going to be valuable.
Still
Trundle
slows
can
you.
always sap your stats with his Q and with his ultimate.
This is actually huge. Can they actually dive Lost here? I think they might be able to. He has no flash. I don't know if they're going to be willing to go for it. At the very least, they got the flash off IgNar there. There is no flash on Lost, so they were trying to at least threaten it to maybe make them back up, but Lost doesn't buy it, doesn't think that they're going to be able to pull it off, so.
Well, they would rather back away than end up feeding a kill or two over by not having the dive work out the way they wanted it to. You're going to see PowerOfEvil trying to get back up here, likely going to have that recall interrupted. Oh, must have just been not watching there. I was expecting him to get hit by the Swain W, but not from the Alistar.
Plus 12 health.
Just caught shopping. Caught shopping. It happens. As Instinct is now 1v2 here in the bottom lane, so he's got to back away into the river, going towards his teammates. Not a whole lot else. We got a much faster first blood in this game than we did in the previous one. Like last game took, what, 13, 14 minutes before we were actually able to get that first blood, and now here 4 minutes into this one, that level 2 gank from Kenvi, just making it so Immortals is off to a nice start here up in the top side. It's pretty even farm state between the two, but it's actually Revenge who's doing better and has more minions to farm.
Yeah, it has been doing very, very well there. Pretty much every single Aatrox matchup in the game is just like, can you hit the Qs? And if you can, you actually can do really well in a lot of lanes. And as such, often his matchups are kind of, whether it's easy or hard, it's just based on how easily your opponent can avoid those Qs, right? Like, it's one of those things that, especially if you get the push, it's very difficult to play against Aatrox who has the push, because then when you're trying to farm those range minions under tower, especially if you are a melee champ, it's very easy for him to kind of know where you're going to step up. And even if he doesn't hit you with the Q, you have to step back and miss CS. So we'll see. That becomes much more of an issue as you get the CDR purchased up. For now, Soul back to base. Early Tabby's purchased. He's going to hold on to the teleport. Revenge is going to try to shove in and reset this wave before Soul can actually freeze it. We'll see if he's going to be able to do that. But Revenge, either way, is going to have to base here. And if Soul can get a freeze, which it looks like he should be able to if he pulls the wave away, then you're going to have to see Revenge TP back to actually fix the wave. So Revenge should have to TP, but he actually killed all the melee minions. So now it's just going to be a slow push.
Ooh, IgNar. That's not where you want to be, buddy. That's not where you want to be at all. Spica picking up a kill there, tying up the game, 1-1.
Good job by Spica. 2 trips down towards that bot side, able to actually take down the Amumu support there. Got the flash the first time around. Repeat gank down towards bot. They get the kill. Gonna be pretty happy about that. Lost off to a good start though. Has the Lost Chapter, has the tier, so all his mana problems, thing of the past pretty much. Once you get to that point, you are chilling.
Lost Chapter is just that item that if you're a mana champion, you are now no longer a mana champion once it is purchased. It just takes care of so much of it for you. As Soul about to transform into the Gnar, but does not want to chase after Revenge any further.
It's always a little bit scary because it's like you want to punish the Q cooldowns, for Revenge. When Revenge uses his chain, when he uses the Qs, you want to. That's your window to kind of have some fun. And that's when it gets difficult as he gets more CDR. Those windows become fewer and further between. Spica does have flash, so there is a potential to try to look for a play here if you want to push in and look for a dive. They're bringing 4 men mid. You look at that mini map, everyone is coming up here, trying to move up to threaten that. We'll see if they actually do commit to it. It doesn't look like it for now, but it is always scary. If you get pushed in under your tower, Poppy can flash or Hex Flash over that Raptor wall and just immediately stun you into the wall, and that can be tough to actually deal with.
The Raptor wall flash gank on a champion that does not normally have terrain clearing mobility is one of my favorite plays. I love doing it. I love seeing it. It so often catches people off guard if you can get the setup for it. So hopefully we can see that at some point here. Maybe on a return trip. But up top here, Soul trying to chase Revenge away again. Of course, whenever Revenge hits these Qs, Soul always has the chance to go for a couple of auto attacks afterwards. Just the nature of being a ranged champion. It's not just about the direct trade, it's about the walk away damage as you're trying to get out of that auto attack range. Immortals still have a very, very slight gold lead, but honestly, the game's essentially dead even here.
16 gold.
1-1. Yeah, it's 16. That's a whole caster
now it's
minion,
almost
my
100.
friend. Yeah. They're hopping up there.
Just like 8x'd.
Yeah. That's when's the last time you 8 times your gold lead, bro.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where the first major fights are going to come from. Neither team taking Dragon makes it feel like it's going to be one of those much more slow games where it is going to be more about the scaling. TSM, I think, happy to try to have this Zeri farm it up. And when you have Cassio, when you have Seraphine, these style of champions looking to just stack up the tiers, complete your first items. It's also a lot stronger now because Liandry's and Demonic Embrace, you can have multiple. You're not actually punished for having multiple on the same team. When we did see Seraphine bot, I think it was TL, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're playing it on Saturday. When they played it, they did actually end up going double Liandry's. You're almost guaranteed to see that here, I would think, as well. PowerOfEvil is usually going to opt towards the more high damage options. Sometimes Cassios will go Everfrost, but Liandry's definitely feels like the more common option.
Especially on anybody with a dot, stacking the dots together so that the Liandry's procs off of the first one that is in the champion kit always feels good. PowerOfEvil throwing out the miasma, so Chime's not really able to do any sort of playmaking while standing on top of that. But now we've got both teams heading into the top side river, as the Herald is already aggroed by Kenvi. Just not really in any hurry to continue DPSing that one down with TSM still hanging out here. About 1/3 of the patience remaining. Kenvi fighting it on the very edge of the aggro range there. And TSM pull away. Looks like they might just go for a trade here instead. Maybe take the Drake, look to make something happen on the other side of the map. Spica walking up, throws down a control ward that'll see IgNar passing through. But Immortals should be able to get themselves that Herald. A little bit more damage from Kenvi will get it done. TSM steal away the chickens. You call that a positive trade for Immortals every time.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not even going to be able to start up the Dragon till just now. So we'll see if Kenvi wants to come down and contest. I don't think that he's going to. It doesn't mean if your team's going to play heavily towards bot, that Soul's going to have to play a little bit more defensively up on that top side. Does have to be a bit careful, but of course, you can actually hop over the Trundle pillar, so it's not the biggest concern unless you actually get pillared out of your jump, which is a lot more difficult to actually have that timing right. PowerOfEvil, nice little anticipation there from Maple, had the timing, knows he's going to go over and collect that blue buff, lands the W, and the Swain stocks, people don't talk about the Swain stacks that much, but it is actually something that's very important. Has 10 already, so that's 120 bonus health, right? And if you think about it, a Ruby Crystal is what, 150, right? So he's like almost a Ruby Crystal worth of health there already. So you get 2 more stacks, that's worth 400 gold, like thereabouts.
Right, yeah, because Ruby Crystal is 150 for 400. Yep. 120 is 80% of 150. 80% of 400 is 320.
There you go.
320 gold, that's more than a kill.
It's a lot. It's actually really, really valuable, right? And that is one of the things that Swain can get a lot of value out of if you're in some matchups or if your opponent isn't actually doing a good job dodging those.
Nicely done there from Maple, dialing in that accuracy as TSM has the Spica and Chime goon squad walking around through enemy territory, clear out some of that vision, look for playmaking. Poppy and Alistar together can really mess somebody up if they're not ready for that ambush.
Yeah, absolutely. Fortunately, they have been ready for the ambush, so not a lot of messing up happening right now. Poppy just kind of chilling. Poppy has one of the most fun walk animations though on this astronaut skin. She's just kind of
floats a little bit.
Now nothing's gonna happen here, observers. Don't be baited. Go back to the important thing. Go back to the Poppy skin. Get us a nice little close angle there.
Okay, maybe something is gonna happen. Maybe we can't just watch Poppy. Maybe Kenvi is gonna grab the kill on Soul that Revenge set up. Immortals now 2-1 on the scoreboard. They've got Kenvi up here with the Herald in his hands. Let's see if they want to spend it, going after some of these plates. Spica doing what he can to try to defend here. There comes your Swain W just to scare him away, thin out that minion wave a little bit.
Yep, nice kill up on the top side. Double flash committed. Soul ends up going down. Spica is there to actually, push him away from just going for a full tower because Trundle does so much damage to towers. The Chomp works on it. The Frozen Domain, the W, gives you the attack speed to work on it. So even if you're not going to damage build, he actually is this game. You crush turrets if you get a gank off as Trundle jungle. You can sometimes just take the entire tower with a Herald pretty easily. But Soul going to be pretty far down now off that because he was getting pushed in, so he loses the waves. The plate gold as well goes over to Revenge. So individually down a good 500 gold just off that one play. It was pretty much even prior to it.
And I like the fact that you mentioned the damage build here because Divine Sunderer Lethal Tempo Trundle is really scary in any sort of a small fight, 1v1, 2v2 type of skirmish situation. That champion can just shred you.
And I think it actually makes a lot of sense because generally when I'm playing Trundle jungle, I think a lot about like where I'm going to get my tankiness, right? If it's only squishy characters on the other side, I think you're more required to go a tank build. But when there's Poppy or Alistar or Gnar, these champions that are going to have a lot of stats to steal that are going to make you tankier.
Sejuani, the dream.
Exactly, right? Like you're going to be able to have a lot more survivability just from your ultimate. So I think it makes sense. Plus you have Seraphine and Amumu, so it's like you have that kind of added survivability, with these champions that are going to lock down people for you, heal you up, shield you up.
And it's not just the lockdown for survivability, it's the lockdown for DPS uptime, right? Because that's one of the problems with damaged Trundle is if you can't get next to somebody and beat them over the head with that bat for a couple of seconds, well, your DPS is still 0. So having the lockdown so he can just stand there and bop him, rock him, sock him, robot. What's that?
Sock and boppers?
No, the things at the fair. Weasel Wall.
I don't have that.
That's where you hit the weasel. Okay, never mind. We got PowerOfEvil down here in the top side.
TSM has a weasel wallop there.
Yep, that's whack-a-mole. Thank you, producers. That's what I was trying to think
of.
I
was like, weasel wallop? Is this some weird Ohio thing?
No, dude, it's not an Ohio thing. I just got the wrong W word. That's my bad. Top lane tier 1 turret. That one's gone, and Immortals 2,000 gold up just about when turret plates are about to fall. This early game's feeling good for them.
Yeah, they're cruising. It is a TSM getting a kill back onto PowerOfEvil over in the mid lane, so at least getting a little bit of something back. Maple is going the Mandate build. He seems to be a pretty big fan of it. More and more people do feel like they're going towards Leandry's build, but Mandate worse for the 1v1, but when you are in those team fights, you're giving move speed not only to yourself, but to your allies. You put that with a Rylai's, and the slowdown plus the speed up means it's very difficult to get away from Swain, which allows him to kind of keep the perma ult.
And I like the fact that you mentioned the Rylai's, because I know that that's the combo, but the thing that I've heard is that most people prefer to go with the Rylai's first because it offers you better combat stats. Whereas Imperial Mandate's combat stats are actually kind of lousy, like it is a support item. So in the 1v1, when that's your only item, yeah, it's got a little bit of AP, some health, some ability haste, but it's not going to feel as good as just the raw ball of stats that's damage and health.
Yep, absolutely. Looking for a little bit of pick there over the wall. You're going to have to back it up. Oh, here goes Gnar.
Okay, Gnar dropping the ulti, but flashes right back out. TSM brought more people to the party, and that means Immortals needs to back away. Lost is not part of this fight yet, but he should be able to move up through the river and join the team. Chime with no ulti and 1/4 HP means this Alistar, if he participates in a fight, he's going in and immediately dying after WQ. So it looks like TSM is ready to surrender this Drake. That'll be a 1-to-1 Drake score here for both teams. FTX Total Gold on the left side of your screen. The top 3 earners this game with that first place significantly far ahead, all wearing IMT colors.
Yep, absolutely. You called it. Chime was low. Maple also having used the ultimate. Swain is pretty useless without the ultimate, honestly, for team fights. Sometimes it can be okay in little skirmishes, if you can actually grab someone with your E, but generally speaking, you do not want to fight whatsoever without the ulti, especially when you're going this style of build. So, Immortals come out on top in that fight. It does cost IgNar his flash, though, so there's kind of some lasting punishment to that, and we'll see if he does get capitalized on earlier in the game when he was receiving the flash. Of course, Spica was able to get the kill. It is Immortals, though, starting up the Herald. Maple about to have the ulti back here, so TSM may like their chances in this fight, but they also have only the Ignite for heal cut, so it's difficult to actually fight into a Gore Drinker level 12 Aatrox.
Well, Soul has teleported mid. TSM looking to maybe contest this one here. Poppy with the disengage on the enemy jungler means there's no smite up.
Ooh, it's too low, no more eye.
Yeah, it's too low for an eyeball proc, so the smite is important. TSM moving up. TSM stealing the objective. TSM finding the DPS Trundle, but they cannot complete the kill. Chime's trying to get away. The Subjugate still draining him out now as Revenge is stuck in the middle of everybody.
Oh, that's CC!
He survives with a Gore Drinker. He's still fighting! Revenge! Just Q3 TSM right back home! Holy moly, they bit off way more than they can chew. And Immortals behind Revenge's sword get 3.
Oh my god, that was like flashbacks to the Shy Aatrox going in against G2.
All the G2 fans in the chat just immediately had to close the stream.
Close the stream, look away. Oh my god, man, I called it out before the fight. If you don't have healing reduction for the Aatrox, and they spent the Ignite to try to kill the Trundle. When this guy has Gore Drinker early and he has rank 2 of the ultimate, the healing amp is so insane. Revenge says, you caught me, I caught you. You're stacking up, goes right back in. He had to heal for a couple thousand in that fight. Just obliterated TSM, and just like that, Immortals up 4K. Let's watch it again. Got a little bit too low there on the Immortal side, so they couldn't actually go for the eyeball plus the smite proc. So TSM come in, they take this, but then they really say, hey, we can actually look for a fight here. The Ignite committed there onto Kenvi. He's gripped back in by Maple, but they don't have the damage to actually knock him back down. And then his soul's about to mega out. They say, hey, let's go for it. Look at the CC chain, though. It was actually really well done. Gnar into the wall up, into the wall slam. All of that comes through. He's down to about 10% health. 750 on the Gore Drinker before the healing amp, by the way. 500 on that, 600 on that. Oh my god, just every auto. Now 130, like he is healing for thousands. If he got the R before the Gore Drinker active, he would have just gone like straight up full. for Revenge, showing the power of the healing, and he's pumped up there. Look at his face. He was feeling himself.
That was such a sick highlight moment for him. You put that one on job applications in the future. You just let him know what kind of a
Put
dude
this on
you
the job
are.
application too.
5,778 damage in the last team fight.
It's a little bit more than
Revenge
lost.
just suplexed all of TSM right back down into the jungle dirt where they were trying to move in. That fight looked like it could have gone so bad.
Yeah.
But man, Revenge, damn.
That was a hype play from Revenge. The turnaround there, just barely surviving. And it's hard to even blame TSM for going for the play because they almost perfectly CC chained him 100-0, right? There wasn't any overlap. It was Gnar right as it expires, wall up, right as it expires, wall slam. I'm not sure if Spica had his ult or if it was already on cooldown. Like maybe you could have done a tap ult or something, but didn't seem like they had anything left. And without that healing debuff, you just can't fight Aatrox. And now, after that, Soul going to be able to pick up Executioner's Calling, so it does have a little bit of a healing debuff there.
Yeah, but fool me once.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to have a lot to deal with him in the future. That's not a lesson that you soon forget. So, Isaac, let's talk a little bit here about the state of the game for TSM, because after that one,
it's rough, man.
It is a very tough way to be. Oh, no, Maple. Oh, no, Maple.
Here comes the squad.
Oh, no.
Okay.
All right, it's cool.
He's chilling.
All right. But the turret's not, and that might just be all they came for in the first place. Immortal's going to use the top laner and jungler to grab that one. Building this up to a nearly 5K lead now. We are getting to the point of the game where I feel like Immortals is going to need to make a mistake because TSM is falling so far behind.
Yeah, Revenge is 2K up individually. Here comes the TP flank from Aatrox.
They're ready to go. IgNar drops the ulti, but he only finds one, and it's an Alistar with an ulti of his own. Immortals went for some playmaking, but TSM disengages well.
Yeah, disengaged very, very well. Didn't have to spend much of anything. I mean, that's the TP coming through. That's the Amumu ult. That's the Ignite. That's the Cassio ult. All of that spent. What did they get? They got Spica's ult. They got Chime's ult. That's about it. Immortals, though, with some of those key ones down, GSM trying to, PowerOfEvil over there. At the same time, this is actually kind of clever. I don't know if they would have been able to do it, but I think they were trying to show, hey, we're on Dragon at the same time.
Yeah.
They're two-manning it without their jungler, so it was just IgNar and PowerOfEvil. I don't know if they actually could have done it or not because that's just a level 8 Amumu. I don't know if he would have been able to take it.
I think Amumu dies to it. I actually don't think it works, but I like the fact that they're thinking of these sort of possibilities as Lost flashes away from the Chime engage here in mid lane. The Seraphine's staying pretty safe here. Honestly, I haven't felt like the Seraphine's been a huge thing so far in this game. We've not seen any moments where it's just like, wow, she's just running over everybody. But she's scaling up. She's got Leandries. She's got the Archangels. Like, we're getting to the point where the Seraphine Death Ball will soon be available.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can actually just go towards supportive style items here. Like, you don't need to go Morello. Seraphine applies the healing debuff AoE with her W so well. So I actually prefer going towards the support items in this case. Don't need to full commit to AP. You already have the Cassios. You have a lot of magic damage there. Yeah. And I really like Anathema's Chains from Kenvi in this game in particular because it does feel like basically all of the damage has to come from Instinct for them to really be able to win a fight, right? I just don't think there's enough in the rest of the tank for TSM to win if it's not through Instinct. And he is going a bit of an atypical build here. So it is Shield Bow into Essence Reaver. Almost always you just see it in pro like PD and then, either LDR or IE third. So it's a little bit of a different build. You do have obviously more CDR. You're not gonna have any mana problems whatsoever, which is always gonna feel pretty nice. And it is very AD heavy, of course. So if you go IE third, like it's a very big spike, but it's a really expensive build too, so it does push that back. And given that he may still feel like he has to go LDR, that would mean that your IE is super delayed.
And it's one of those things too where those cost increases are going to feel even worse in a game that you're losing by this much. You're going to have less neutral resources to try to go after. Immortals back over to the Baron. They have started this one up, and they're not backing away after the blue trinket this time. Spica's going to try to knock somebody out of the pit, see if maybe he's able to go in and steal this one, but no, sir! It's claimed by Immortals, and Chime jumps into a 1v5. Alistar ulti's generally pretty good at keeping you alive, but will it get him out of this one? Kenvi still in hot pursuit. Swain W for the slow, nicely done. Chime, however, cannot escape the trophy that'll become his grave.
I mean, that is 7K in the lead now. We saw C9 come back from a very similar game early on, but this one feels like it's getting really out of reach very quickly. The scaling on TSM's side is not incredible by any means. It's really only the Zeri, it feels like, that can get much done. And this gold lead is becoming monumental off of that. you can expect PoE is going to be really close to his third item. You know, Revenge already has 2 completed. We already talked about the 2 completed there for a Lost. Instinct, you know, trying to scrap together as much gold as he can is going to be close to his second item, but I mean, they are just so far down, and that's 3 items now for PowerOfEvil. He's already got the Rylai's. And Chemtech Putrifier, great.
Yep, and third item for Lost, exactly what you were talking about, going with the support approach to the massive AoE grievous wounds that he can grant to the entire team. That shuts down some of the Swain healing, some of the Imperial Mandate, Immortal Shield Bow healing that Zeri would be able to achieve, anything from Alistar. Immortals is so scary right now. We are now at the point of the game where Immortals must have some sort of an error. TSM doesn't come back into this one only through their own good plays. There's got to be a mistake on the other side. IMT are way too far out.
And it's so brutal to actually try to come into an objective late against Cassio because Miasma covers like that whole little area, right? So you almost can't walk through that and Pillar and all these things, and you have to group up for potential Seraphine ults. Revenge will pop the ulti early. Was a little bit nervous that they were going to get behind him here, so paying respect to it. But the rest of the team is pushing through bot. They're going to take down the tier 2. And then can potentially retreat back towards the dragon as this buff is going to end. You can see the Baron buff timer, a minute 6 remaining. The dragon's going to spawn in the minute 3, so they're going to be able to have this push in, take as much gold as they can, and then retreat back to that dragon and try to pick that up. But Soul megaing out, you know, wants to potentially try to look for some sort of a flank, but I just really like this kind of bodyguarding here by IgNar. You know, he's just playing that angle, not allowing Soul to go for any sort of a wraparound. And if you spend the Megnar on the Amumu, well, who cares? You're going to lose the rest of the fight.
Plus, Soul has this not tanky at all Gnar build, right? Like, this is a bruiser build. If he jumps in there and Ignar is able to just lock him down instantly, he evaporates. There goes that second tier 2 turret, or third, actually, tier 2 turret of the game. Forgot they already got the one in top lane as well. Immortals doing great, and now they have to find a way to break the inhibitor turret lines of TSM. Nearly 10,000 gold ahead. They can kind of do whatever they want on the map right now. They don't have to go for anything crazy. Chime is the one looking for a play to be made, but he will not find anything of value onto PowerOfEvil. And now with the Alistar flash down, now with the Alistar ultimate down, Immortals just charges in. Spica has to run away. The steadfast presence getting him out as fast as he possibly can. Revenge has the World Ender ready to go yet again. Q1 on Maple. Is he going to find anything else? Okay, there's the stasis. Should be able to dash back over the wall. He'll stay alive. TSM seeing if there's anything else to find here, but I don't believe there is.
Yeah, a lot of trading of cooldowns. Immortals should just leave. Just go to Dragon. There's no reason to be staying here this long. They have so much gold to spend. You know, so they need to kind of back it up, play a little bit more defensively. You know, 1,200 gold on Revenge, 1,300 gold on PoE, 1,200 gold on Lost. You know, another 1,500 between IgNar and Kenvi. So a lot of their gold lead right now is actually not spent up. Yeah, so go back, hit Soul Point, go back to base, spend that up. And yeah, when you're down cooldowns here as well, you have to be somewhat respectful. PoE did have to trade out his flash there when Chime went in, it looked like. So they could try to look to capitalize on that. But for Immortals, you know, it's to just continue to play this out slow and steady. No need to really kind of push the pace and do anything too crazy because it's TSM that are so limited in options. It's TSM that will have to show up and try to fight them at this potential Soul, or it's just lights out.
Yeah, this is a very scary position for TSM. But hey, when we were getting into this game, I said, I want to see the comms from Immortals stay improved. I said, I want to see this team communicate better than what we saw last time they had a Cassiopeia and had a lead. And so far here in this one, for these first 26.5 minutes, they've been doing really well. From Kenvi's level 2 gank with the inefficient path on Trundle, up to making the Baron call, trusting in that Trundle to be able to secure the smite, play around the Poppy and everything else, to Revenge's absolute Chad mode, just 1v5.
That was
Aatrox.
game-changing.
That really was. That was the moment that TSM lost any sort of
The wheels
control.
fell off.
Yeah,
that absolutely was. I mean, TSM was feeling pretty competitive prior to that point, but it's going to be a tough one now. Baron up here in a minute. We saw how fast they were able to take it down last time. It's also very easy to actually keep the jungler out over the wall with Miasma because you can just throw the Miasma over the wall. They can't actually flash in on it. So you can use Trundle Pillar of that, try to really box them out, and potentially just rush it down. Force of Nature now completed as well, so can be on 3 items before any of the carries on TSM have 3 items, which is really, really rough. You know, junglers generally are like at least a full item behind the carries, so this is a tough spot to be in. At the very least, Maple does have his Rylai's, so he kind of has that 2-item power spike ready to go, but they're TPing in. Immortals ready to fight.
Immortals wants to go for this Revenge. He TP's in, yes, but Maple is able to slow him down there with that Swain W. As Kenvi looking for any sort of damage he can find here. PowerOfEvil throwing out some miasma. IgNar looking for a way into the fight. Drops the ulti on 3, and Chime is dropped first. Immortals running over TSM here, but is PowerOfEvil removed by Maple? IMT still fighting back. Instinct's gonna be the target as Kenvi backs away. Maple continuing to zone them all out here with the power of the ulti. Revenge frontlining for the side of IMT. TSM backs away. Honestly, even though they lost the trade 2-for-1, that's still about as good as they could hope for here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just rough for TSM. You can see the difference in the gold there. You know, they get that first kill on PoE. Zeri stacking up. You start thinking, hey, you know, Swain's going, Zeri stacking. Maybe they can make something happen, but it's like Instinct has a P-shooter. He's doing no damage whatsoever through the Seraphine and down this much on gold. So Immortals, it's going to be a bit of a slow Baron here, but right over to the Baron. They're going to take this down. Don't even need PoE. And they will be well over 10k ahead. May even wait for PoE. It looks like they are going to try to wait to give him that Baron buff as well.
I like that.
It makes sense. I mean, they're not being pressured whatsoever. They know no one is coming, so they will be able to grab this up. 11,000 nearly in the advantage here. Immortals are crushing TSM. And with this win, it would actually tie them in the standings. Going for Chime again, they knew he had no flash. They're happy to make this long run in. IgNar played this very well, had the second part of the Q. Both him and PoE do sidestep the knockout there, the rejection coming through from Spica, and then this ulti from IgNar hits all 3. PowerOfEvil, they are able to actually get in on and solo with a great Gnar. They combo him down, but Maple and Instinct just don't do any damage. So they get that initial kill, but look how difficult it is for them to actually get through all the shielding and healing and everything coming out, you know, from this Immortals side. It's going to be one last hurrah, it feels like, for TSM. They've got to try to go for this dragon, but...
Well, they jump in on Kenvi, looking for that Trundle there, remove the ability to smite, remove the ability to fight. PowerOfEvil finds an ulti on multiple targets, and Instinct is in danger. Instinct is gone. Revenge goes on a killing spree, and Maple tries to escape, but there ain't no running when Immortals just runs you over. Spica now trying to get out, but surprise, surprise, IgNar just came knocking, and IMT just gonna chase the remaining couple of players away, stop them from backing up. PowerOfEvil's got those Baron minions. There's your payoff in waiting 5 extra seconds. PoE's already got him in the base. The rest of the team's gonna join up. No soul required. This is an easy dub for IMT.
Yeah, it's all done by the Cry, and Immortals cruising today. Really well played game. Kenvi early pathing was so strong. Revenge with a massive play in that big fight over by the blue buff, and Immortals gonna get another win here. 2-2 over the last 2 weeks have improved by leaps and bounds.
They have a tough job ahead of them. The start of their split wasn't what they wanted. They got to fight tooth and nail to try to climb up those standings. But being able to absolutely slam the other teams that are with you at that lower part, that's huge. That says this is a team that's fixing their problem.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been night and day. You know, after that break week, that seemed to help them more than anyone else. Immortals had a lot of issues to fix, and they were able to fix them largely. You know, they have had 2 wins and 2 very competitive losses, right? This team has absolutely turned it on, are looking so much better. And you said it, these are the teams that are down around that bottom of the standings with them. They are now going to be tied for 8 with TSM, only 1 game back of Golden Guardians for 7th. They are starting to make up a little bit of ground here on these teams, and they're going to be, you know, a couple games up on Dig.
Yeah, I'm really liking the new Immortals that we're getting to see here with the improvements. Obviously, there's still a long way that they've got to go, but the strides that they're making have been awesome. The individual chance for the players to shine in these moments too, stepping up and showing that they're not going to back down in that moment where it's put up or shut up. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Revenge. Bad Aatrox dies there. Chad Aatrox flies there. If you go in, they go down.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And those are the kind of plays that I feel like, you know, make fans out of people. Right?
Yes.
You remember those exciting moments. You think about those hype plays. That was definitely a big one for Revenge.
Huge.
You know, no heal cut there in that fight for TSM. Level 2 ultimate on the Aatrox, turns around, barely survives the CC chain, gets the Gore Drinker off, and just heals right up to full, crushing through that team with multi-man Q after multi-man Q. was really well played for Revenge, and that just felt like that was the moment that TSM didn't have a chance in the game anymore.
Yeah, and I love the fact that we got his player reaction cam after it, because it was exactly what I expected from somebody who just 1v4 like multiple Qs in a row and kept his entire team not only in the game, but now firmly in control.
Yeah.
After that, TSM never really got back into anything. Yeah, they had the one random kill on Cassiopeia, right?
Yeah.
But that's about it.
And I mean, so much of this game just felt like it was about Kenvi and Revenge to me. It was about the top side for Immortals getting work done. You know, PoE was kind of chilling farming, the bot lane was kind of chilling farming. You know, there were some skirmishes, but largely, you know, they didn't have to make a lot of the action happen because, you know, Kenvi had some really good plays, had some really good ganks, and Revenge got so far ahead that he was kind of able to assert his dominance on the map. The team played a really strong objective-focused game. They used the Cassio to take the early Baron uncontested. Once they get that, the gold lead explodes. They already had Dragon control, so they were cruising. And you know, it's another game here for TSM that they're going to be left, you know, wanting back. They have been having a bit of a rough split, have not been able to kind of live up to some of those expectations. But at the very least for TSM, some of these new players gaining a lot of experience, and I think, you know, showing some really bright moments. I've been happy to watch this kind of a new era of TSM guys come in.
Yep. And with our fourth game of the day wrapped up, the LCS has partnered with eSpat to capture all of our iconic game day moments. We want to make sure fans get access to those memories too. For a limited time, LCS fans can access a collection of game day photos for free over at eSpat.ai. Download your favorite LCS snapshots or just a photo of Raz doing something silly. It's Raz, that's what he does. But now we're heading over to the stage to join Pastrytime for our Verizon post-game interview.
Thank you very much. I have found IMT lost after yet another win. It seems like things are turning around. Lawrence, how are you feeling about the state of the team coming off yet another win here on stage?
I think we've been doing pretty decently over the past 2 weeks. I think we've shown stronger performances, a lot stronger than our first couple of weeks. So pretty happy with our progress.
Yeah, what do you attribute that to? Because I feel like if you look at your season, like we had a break halfway through and then you kind of came back from that and it seemed like the team was quite different.
Going into the season, we didn't really have much time together because PowerOfEvil or Tristan was getting his green card done. So he actually just showed up like 2 days before our first match. So this 2 week break really gave us a lot of time to, you know, mesh better as a team, you know, fix more of our flaws. So I think this 2 week break really saved us.
And I feel like, you know, we've heard from a couple of your teammates from PoE, from Revenge. It seems like maybe the obvious problems kind of looking at the team is like, oh, it felt like you weren't coordinating, maybe communicating as much as you should be. Do you think that's what it was, or is it maybe something else you identify?
I think it just takes time, you know. You can't really play at like the top level just out of the bat, just kind of fresh on the stage, right? So I think just more time would really helps us.
And of course, you've got, you know, some new teammates as well. How are you feeling about, especially Kenvi, being integrated into this team as a newer player in the LCS?
I think he has a really good mindset. I just think in general, our team has a really good time together. We do a lot of out-of-the-game activities, and it's just a good time all around.
Yeah, and I know you've talked a lot about team mentality and like camaraderie being important. Is that something you feel like you've got now, especially obviously as the team have been picking up more wins?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it doesn't feel good losing all of your games, but things are doing better now, so.
And then kind of moving back into the game for our last question here. You did play Seraphine off camera. You were like, yeah, you know, not the most exciting champion. A pilot is an AD carry. Is it just a champion you kind of have to play? Is it that strong?
Yeah, we lost to TL and they played Seraphine, so we played.
Perfect answer, Lawrence. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we do have one more game left, so don't go too far. We're heading to break, but we'll be back with more LCS in just a mo.
I think they're going to go for it.
What is it? The best gank path is the ones your opponents can't expect. Instinct! A little more damage will do it, and it's first blood to Immortal. What? He survives for the Gore Drinker. He's still fighting! Revenge! Just Q3 TSM right back home! Holy moly, they bit off way more than they can chew!
Oh no! That was not even fair!
What if respawning was refreshing? Here's to the round between rounds.
This game is rigged. This game is out to get me.
Okay. How much for a collector's edition squishy pig with holographic cover art? I'm trying to save some cash.
You don't have to sell that. State Farm has rates that fit your budget.
Don't even look at my squish. Don't even look at it!
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or click to get a quote today.
Let's go crazy.